So we're going to talk today about 2 stress busters that are very useful, very simple. So what most people don't know is that when we become stressed, when we start to tell ourselves that we're stressed, the first thing that happens is we stop breathing. Now, we don't stop breathing altogether because you drop down and die. But what happens is that our breathing becomes very high and very shallow. And that means we get less oxygen into our system. And within a very short space of time, because the brain uses most of the oxygen in the blood, the brain starts to get foggy and we can't think properly. And that's why when we get stressed, we're like, oh, I don't know what to do. And so the second you notice you're stressed, which is the first strategy, then the next thing to do is to take 2 deep breaths and breathe right down to your diaphragm. So that you take a big breath in, and you expand out to the side. And as you breathe out, your stomach comes in and the air comes out. It's not this. It's not where you go, take a big breath in and get it all up here. It's down the bottom where you need to the bottom of the diaphragm. I'm trying to show you where it is. Down to the bottom of your diaphragm that you need to get the big breath going to get the maximum amount of oxygen in. So first strategy against stress is 2 big, deep breaths. And one of the things I like to share with people, because it's silly, but you remember it and it works. So you know when you get on a plane and they do the safety thing and then they say, in the unlikely event the plane plummets to the earth, oxygen masks will fall from the ceiling. And if you're with a child, what do they tell you to do first? Put the oxygen mask on yourself. Why? Because if you're dead, the child is sitting there going, Mom, Dad, you're useless to the child. That's why self-care is so important, and that's why breathing is so important. And when we do the 2 breaths, this is the way I do it, and it's kind of funny, which means people remember it. So the next time you're feeling really stressed, this is all you have to do. You ready? You're going to love it. This is your own personal oxygen mask. And when you put it on and you take a big breath in, it reminds you to go down to your diaphragm. And then when you blow the air out, don't go like this. Don't be going, that doesn't work. You've got to take a big breath and then blow the air out, because that expels the toxins. And the toxins have built up because you've been breathing high and shallow. And just when you breathe out, try not to spit on anybody, because as you breathe out after that, it often does go with a bit of spit. Anyway, that's the first one. So take 2 big breaths in. The first one gets in a bit of oxygen. The second one gets rid of most of the toxins and starts to rebalance things. The second thing that you can do, to bust your stress is to actually, and I've said it in another video, but this one works really well, is to get a rubber band. And I had a rubber band here. Anyway, imagine I got a rubber band around my wrist, right? And you're going to take, when you notice that you're telling yourself stories that are making you feel really stressed, you pull the rubber band all the way out. Actually, I'm quite glad I haven't got the rubber band on because this hurts. And then you let it snap back. And the brain really works like Pavlov's dogs. You can train it with repetition. So every time the brain has a thought that brings you stress, because there's very little that makes a human being stressed physiologically from the external, like extreme cold, extreme heat. They're 2 things that do influence us. You know, if somebody's beating us, pain does it. But generally speaking, most of the stress that most of us deal with, we create by the stories we tell ourselves. So if you're catching the story that's making you feel stressed, making you feel crappy, you get the rubber band, you pull it all the way out, it goes whack, and your brain goes, whoa. And then if your brain tries to have that thought again, you pull this out, whack, boom. Every time your brain has a stressful thought or a stress-creating thought, you pull this out, you snap it back, and very quickly the brain goes, I don't think I'll do that anymore. I think we'll have a different thought, because you can replace it with a different thought after you've gone snap, 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 and it hurts. You know, your wrist doesn't bleed, but it does get a bit red after a while, but that's okay. You know, just be sensible. But between breathing and doing the rubber band, and I'll throw an extra one in here because this works really well too. Exercise is a fabulous stress reducer. And you don't have to go and kill yourself and get to that level of exercise, although that's beneficial. You can just go for a walk around the block. I know in the last few weeks I was feeling particularly overwhelmed because I was trying to write articles for newspapers, I was trying to develop a podcast, I was working at getting more speaking jobs. If you know anybody who'd have me speak, please email me. So I was feeling a bit overwhelmed. And all I had to do was to go out and walk around my block. It took less than 5 minutes. And I could vary the pace, but I chose to walk quite fast. And so I walked around the block, I did it another time, and then I would come back inside and I would be much calmer and feeling much better. So there's 3 very easy, very simple ways for you to bust your stress. And it's just a choice whether you choose to do it or not. They take very little time, they work really well, so make a commitment to yourself and make sure you bust the stress, because all the stress is doing is making you sick, and these simple little things will help you stay well. Ta-da!
Always look on